All right, folks, I will say Donald Trump still has no clear, absolute presidential level protection, and that is the subject of the riff. Now, I ask, will someone please explain to me in very plain English whether or not Donald Trump, after 2 assassination attempts, now has presidential level protection on the campaign trail? Please, no bureaucratese. Does he have it or does he not have it? Following the Butler, Pennsylvania assassination attempt, the Secret Service apparently told some House members, as our Mr. Trump, as our Mr. Spunt just talked about, he talked about that they had presidential-type protection. But then came the attempted assassination at the Trump Florida golf course, where there was clearly no outside perimeter protection and insufficient resources on the golf course itself. And here's what the Palm Beach County Sheriff said. Take a listen.
He's not the sitting president. If he was, we would have had this entire golf course around it. But because he's not, the security is limited to the areas that the Secret Service deems possible.
Yeah, and I'll just say, I'm not the expert here. I'm not the security expert, but all the reports, there was no patrolling of the outside perimeter of that golf course. Anyway, to me, clearly, the Secret Service was telling an untruth to House members way back on July 13th. Now, at that point last Sunday, there was no presidential level protection on the golf course. Now, this Tuesday evening, this past Tuesday afternoon, at a Politico event, DHS Secretary Mayorkas issued an incredible word salad that frankly seems to dodge any clarity on this subject at all. And I'll just go through it. The Secret Service, quote, has indeed enhanced the former president's security posture so that he is receiving a level of security commensurate with the fact that he's a former president and on the campaign trail, and so his alignment with the security posture of our president is, in fact, quite approximate. How can you, in fact, quite approximate? You're either in or you're out. I don't see any clarity here. What is he talking about? And by the way, why hasn't Mayorkas made any official appearances at all? The guy is nowhere to be found, whether it's Secret Service protection or the catastrophe at the U.S. southern border or anything. Where is Mayorkas? Now, for clarity, we have to look to this bipartisan House bill that did pass today, 405-0, and I'll quote, imposes uniform standards for the security of presidents, vice presidents, and major White House candidate, period, close quote. Okay, there you have it. There's no commensurate. There's no approximate. It's very clear. Now, undoubtedly, this House bill is going to pass the Senate, and that will then mandate presidential-type protection for Mr. Trump. Now, former DHS Secretary Chad Wolf, in an interview on this show a couple days ago, also talked about something called threat-based resource model. Now, here's Chad. Take a listen to what he said.
This needs to be threat-based. President Trump definitely has a different threat picture than Vice President Harris, so the resources need to be allocated as such.
All right, so that's a very interesting point of view to be pursued elsewhere. But so far, I'm just saying, so far, neither President Biden nor DHS Secretary Mayorkas has seemingly given any clear orders. That's all I'm saying. Now, Mr. Trump himself has been very, very gracious about the Secret Service and about the local law enforcement, especially after this golf course assassination attempt. Take a listen to what he said Wednesday out in Long Island, New York.
This evil would-be assassin got within a few hundred yards of where I stood, but thankfully, our outstanding Secret Service agent, and they are outstanding. And I want to express my thanks to the U.S. Secret Service and to all of the sheriffs and law enforcement down in Florida, the heroes who helped to apprehend the attacker.
All right, very, very, very gracious. But all this begs the question whether even blanket presidential-level Secret Service protection has the high value that we all hope it does. At a press conference today, Acting Director Ronald Rowe talked about communication deficiencies at the Butler, Pennsylvania. That was between the Secret Service and the local law enforcement. He said the service was to blame because their preparation for that rally was a failure. They had not given adequate guidance for the local authorities. And then he kind of went on with word salad stuff, word salad about how the agency is now moving into, quote, the accountability phase, end quote. I don't know what that means, the accountability phase. Rowe's entire presser, in fact, seemed like a word salad. He used words like, quote, paradigm shift, or, quote, needed shift in operations, or, quote, principles of Secret Service methodologies. But frankly, from the recent experience, we've had very poor principles and we've had failed methodology. Now, he talked about disciplining certain agents and various internal review processes. But as I've suggested many times before, neither the Secret Service nor the FBI can be counted on for anything remotely like a true review of what has been going wrong with the service. And for that matter, the FBI, and this is my view, for that matter, the intelligence agencies, including the CIA. I believe there's left-wing bias in all these agencies, including DEI hiring policies and practices. I think this whole story is a rat's nest in the Washington, D.C. swamp that needs to be completely cleared out and cleaned out. Look, this should not be a partisan issue. It should not. Democratic presidential candidates should be just as grateful for significant changes in their protection as much as Republican candidates. But meanwhile, as Washington dithers, there are still 46 days left in the current presidential campaign. And heaven help us if those days aren't completely safe. All right, and that's the riff this evening. Okay.